I want you to think about something. You can hit goals and still feel empty. But the cost of chasing what looks impressive instead of what's aligned. Let's talk about it right after this.
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. Life experience, here we share it. The Low Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. Podcast. We'll help your spirit transform.
You.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing out there?
I hope y'all are doing pretty well today.
I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Reese?
I'm all right. I'm okay. So as you heard me say, you can hit goals and still feel empty. And so I'm gonna give y'all an idea of a goal that I used to have that I don't have it on the same level that I had in the past.
Okay.
And the goal was to have a big house. But it could still feel empty. The house can feel empty of having a big house because you're cash poor, house poor. And so on the outside, it looks fabulous, right? But on the inside, it has no furniture. You got no place to sit. And so so that's what I mean by that's the cost of chasing what looks impressive, because a large $1 million crib, at that time $1 million is only still today is only like a 2-bedroom, I don't know, mobile home or something right now, versus what it looked like back in the day, where it looks like you could have had, 45 to 50 acres of land. Again, appearance-wise, you talk from a kid's perspective, that's what my dream was. But now that I'm older, more wiser, more experienced, been around the block, or at least off the block to see what has been going on. So, but I used to say to Kafi, how, hey, I want this big house, whatever it is. And Kafi's like, well, Maurice, it's one thing to have a big house, but it's another thing to be, house poor. And I didn't always understand that. But then as she stated to me that with that big house, what other expenses come with that? So before we even get to the inside, Maurice, all right, you have all this land. Well, who's going to cut it?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to do the maintenance on the shrubbery? I know we don't normally use that type of word, but the bushes, right?
Who's doing all the landscaping? Especially when you have that many acres, you don't want
right.
You don't want to take on that prestige of success and hitting a goal. Oh, I'm succeeded. I've reached my goal. I have $1 million home with 30 acres and a mule, and you have the worst looking property in town.
Mm-hmm.
The folks are writing letters to the city and the borough about you because it's so unkempt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was able to focus on the home, and I got that. I don't have the funds or the know-how, the withal to understand what it needs and what it takes to upkeep what reached out to get as a goal. So that's just where I was kind of coming from, that understanding with the goal, what comes with it, to whom much is given, much is required.
So when I would hear that, I would feel like she was not supporting me. I would feel in some ways abandoned, some ways not supported, some ways unequally yoked. And so I will really think about or have to really consider, like, is it worth it? Is it, what should I do, not do, or whatever it is. And then even to the point of where at one point in time, because I wanted it and I really wanted to see what it was like to be in that type of home, or whatever. And so I went to go visit a few, and interesting enough, and I'll tell you my experience. I had gone to an open house, and of course, they're like, "Hey, sir, how are you?" and whatever, and well, what do you do? And like, oh wow, like you'll fit the neighborhood or whatever. I'm like, that's interesting. And then they're like, well, because it was such a large property, there were actually 2 realtors on that property, or more than one, I should say, more than one realtor, because different places had another representative of the organization saying, hey, well, this is the carriage house. This is where the pool is, whatever it is, because they had enough people there visiting the home. And so they needed more than one person there to kind of help sell the house or explain what else was going on, with the house. So, but as I'm walking through and you realize that in this, it was literally a $2 million house, $2 million property. You walking through and you realize, oh, wow, this house is not as grand on the inside as I thought. Mm-hmm. I realized that, their baseboards, their crown molding, whatever it is, got gaps. I realized that some of the travertine tile was cracked. And so what looks impressive on the outside could definitely look empty and crazy on the inside.
Right.
It's all beat up. It's all whatever. And so now, because Kafi, I mean, we just talked about the outside of just understanding the landscape, but then you go on the inside. Well, because there is a gap in the baseboard, like my mind went into, well, is there air moving in and out of that? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I'm a dude from West Philly. Is that the racetrack for the Autumn Mice, or whatever other road is coming in and out the crib? And so unfortunately in that space, and I'm just talking about the main home, I haven't even got to all the other stuff, but you start to look and like, oh, snap. That's going to cost me something. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cost me more than just finances, which is something I need y'all to understand, that sometimes your peace gets disrupted. Sometimes now you're misaligned with your real purpose in life. And so, yes, that looks impressive. It tells other people that maybe, hey, maybe I am successful because of whatever success might look like to you, but is it really worth to be misaligned and not to be able to get to what your divine purpose really is?
Right. I mean, I think even the property that you're speaking about, I think we're talking, or I may have the same idea of the property that you're speaking of. It wasn't more than an acre.
It wasn't. Mm-mm.
So all the things that you're speaking of, even with the landscaping that they had,
it was a lot too.
The hardscaping that they had, it was a gated property. Mm-hmm. Black wrought iron fence around the property, tall trees of all different kinds. And as we walked the property, and again, it wasn't large in acreage. I don't even know if it was a full acre.
I think it was just under an acre.
So, as we were going through, I'm like, oh, wow, look at this kind of a tree and look at that kind of a tree. Oh, wow, like there's all these insects over here. Does the tree, draw these insects? But it's near the pool. Do we really want that? How do you deal with that? So all the questions came to my mind of, again, maintenance. How do we deal with this? It can look very nice and it can sound grand to say, oh, I moved into this, how many bedrooms was it?
5.
Okay, 5-bedroom home with a carriage house, with a detached garage, with a pool house, with, all these things. To have all of that, but we need to have the know-how on how to manage it. And I'm not saying it can't happen. We've talked about it in previous episodes. Maybe it's trial and error. Try it out. You can figure it out. Jump into the deep. You'll learn how to float, swim, or somehow survive until somebody comes your way. If you need saving, but we might be able to swim. It might work, but there was just not much clarity there. So, Maurice, I just want to say publicly, I apologize for, discounting that goal, that vision. I think for me, us going there cleared some things up. It made it more of a reality versus what you see on, MTV Cribs and things like that. I'm dating myself. But, that was a little bit different. But we hadn't talked about, hey, when this $1 million, 30-acre, multi-million-dollar property is obtained, what does that look like? What does that mean? Do you need a pool guy, or do we handle the pool ourselves? Do we need landscaping to come out? How often do they have to come out? What else is needed? Do you need a housekeeper to come in every now and then to clean the 20-foot ceilings, the chandeliers, and all of the things that come along with it? I don't know how to clean a jacuzzi tub with the jets. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm like you, from West Philly. Had a little tub, spray some, pour some Ajax and scrub-a-dub-dub. Some soft soap and scrub-a-dub-dub. I don't know how to care for a pool, heated, salt water, whatever it was. They had fountains and things like that, Don't know. Couldn't tell you a name of any of those bushes, trees, or whatever was going around. Nice. It looked nice. Well,
Right.
Some areas did. Some looked a little overgrown. But again, I wouldn't know how to care for that. I wouldn't know what to do with that blessing. So would that blessing then become a curse? So, as you're stating the alignment, once I, became aligned a little bit with your vision of, okay, I understand it a little bit better. I can see it. Yes, I think that created some peace within us and our relationship. But still not having much clarity of like, okay, well, once that's obtained, how do we manage everything? What's all needed to get that?
But see, I think that's where the through our conversations, when I would say to you, well, Kaf, again, moment of transparency, that there were moments or times where you just doing things that you just want to make an impression, that you want to show that you're moving forward, whatever it is, and it's not always clear what the true outcome really is and what that outcome, how it is aligned with your vision, your goals, or whatever it is, especially whatever God has for you. So, and then for me not to have it written down for yourself, because of, yes, I could say it, but that's not how you intake information. So it takes a little while, that for you to visualize it. Because just me saying it, you can't visualize it. You're not going to be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But that happens with a lot of visionaries. Some people don't see what the visionary might see. But here's the other part of that as well. some people might be considered a visionary, but some people might be, considered some BSers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that can be a really tricky or weird situation, especially if you've lived in an environment where people were like that, right? You don't know if you could trust what they got to say. You don't know if you could trust, which way they're going or whatever it is. I mean, we have some family members over this last year. We're like, yo, you ain't telling us the whole truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And don't tell us anything that's just to kind of get us by, because guess what? We ain't kids no more, right? And the reality is, I know for myself, you can stay stuck where you are. I may not like the situation that, people might have been in, you want to help people out, but whatever, so unfortunately, I had to look at how I might have moved forward in life at particular times or particular moments of my life,
Mm-hmm.
And so now, like, and then based off of our Kafi and our conversations, like, Maurice, there were times, man, like, I feel like you were just saying things just to stay, and you weren't serious or real or whatever it might have been. I'm paraphrasing in some of that, but that's how the conversation had gone. So for me not to have a true game plan on how to, one, get to the $2 million crib, and then to maintain the house itself, and then to be in the house longer than 15 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so in those three separate situations, it makes it one problem, right? But it's a whole lot of that. So sometimes as we're trying to do certain things, some of our goals or ideas create moments that are, where we're misaligned, but it makes it look like we're busy, like we're doing busy work, and we look like we're productive and all that type of stuff. And unfortunately, we really aren't.
Mm-hmm.
We're just spinning wheels. We make it, we're making it look pretty again or impressive on the outside, but what is it really going on the inside, and how empty we really are,
Mm-hmm.
And so, so if we stay aligned, joy and peace and happiness and all that type of stuff, you realize, like, it's not gonna come from those type of things. You're gonna be now if you're blessed to have it, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but also if you understand as well, something else that I had to learn is, in this, and understand, what did that $1 million house represent? And so the $1 million house represented not necessarily my own personal vision, but based off of what was said to me as a kid.
Mm.
And so now that dream, that idea, whatever it is not, it becomes further and further away, because I start
It's
to.
not yours.
Yeah, right.
It's not personal. You know what I mean? So, and the house is one thing, just to take it another way, and we start talking about other people. So sometimes it's the prestige of a certain job, or a lot of people are dealing with weight loss. Hey, if I was this size, I would be happy, and that's a goal. And then people get to that size or that shape that they want, and then they're not happy. Just within the last year, how many singers, actors, artists, or whatever who had some type of corrective surgery, cosmetic surgery, were like, I'm not happy with it. I want to go back to my regular face, my regular size, or whatever. Like, they're not happy in it, And then for those like who have had surgery to lose weight, things like that, they're still not happy once some of the pounds shed off, because it takes a lot even to maintain it once they've had that. So it can be tough of not really knowing, like Maurice said, like what's the root problem or the root cause, the root of why you want that goal. And because that can create that rat race, that constant running around, you can get burned out. And you running around and, I'm trying to lose this weight, I'm, working hard, I'm trying to get to this, $1 million so I can buy this house. Like, it sounds good. It sounds like you're being productive. But in the end of the day, you're burning yourself out. You're hurting yourself more at it. And then, hey, once you get there, how happy will you be? And, it's hard to say because, Maurice, you're not there in that big house yet, So once you get there, then you can kind of answer that question like, hey, it was worth it all. And, I'm happy.
But see, here's the thing, though. As we're talking about the big house, I mean, Kav, you well know that, hey, I'm not, that big house idea has been shrinking over a period of time, and something that, I want y'all to understand or even consider is that what I was doing, and I really would like to try to implement this or this idea, is to understand what is that goal that you had that was for approval and not for your purpose. And that's the difference,
right?
And so that big house was for approval of the image of success, the image of notoriety or whatever it is. But here's the reality. The idea of who I might have wanted to impress or get approval, well, guess what? They're still alive, but they can't recognize it, right? They wouldn't know. And then the other part of that is, as well, when people look at, you having X, Y, and Z, what type of or what other type of attention comes about. And I think that's the other part as well, because people think that, hey, y'all got it. Y'all could do X, Y, and Z. Y'all can afford. Well, you really don't know what we could do. You have no idea what's going on in our house once the door's closed. You get what I mean? And
even with the doors open, you don't know what's going on in the house.
You're right about that too. And so I think that's the difference when it comes, when it really comes down to it. And so do you really want to put that bullseye on your back? So that idea of that big house, that idea dwindles more and more and more. And then what was the purpose of the house to begin with? Again, like you said, it wasn't my idea, but now the idea of my idea now would be, I just want to have a large or large enough space to kind of bring back family traditions of eating together, congregating together, because a lot of us don't do that anymore.
Right.
And so that's part of the plan is to understand what the purpose is, and not just for approval.
Yeah, that's good.
So but I thank y'all very much for listening. And I would like really for y'all to subscribe and commit to building a year or 2 or 5 that feels right, and that is just not a place of productivity or looks like it's productivity.
But on purpose.
But on purpose.
Yes.
We thank y'all very much for listening today. We'll talk to y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow.